It's my pleasure, it's my big pleasure to open this second stage with the speaker, with Josef, with the speaker of Josef Šlerka. Josef Šlerka is the head of New Media Department at Faculty of Art at Charles University. So basically, if you want to refer to somebody in terms of new media research and new media studies, definitely Josef in Prague and in Czech Republic is your guy. He also worked for social bakers, so maybe those of you who are interested in social media and things around it maybe already know the company, so he did the research and development for the social bakers, and also he's a head of fund supporting independent journalists. So I think this is a very strong and nice combination. So Josef, thank you for being here with us today and looking forward to have your presentation here. So floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the first introduction. Why I'm here. And the problem is that I have no specific reason to be there. My English is horrible. I'm not libertarian. Yes, maybe 5-10 years ago I was data guy. And honestly, I don't think so. The state is really bad. I think that taxes are some kinds necessary. That why I'm here. And the reason is in one graph. This is the project built by academic guy, which try to simulate how social network works. If you try to gain some kinds of parameters like the tolerance, influence, and unfriending. You can see what is the development of the network if you see the network where people just unfriending often with a no influence, with a no tolerance, and you can immediately see what will be probably scenario of this. That means the reason why I'm here is that I would like to say something what is for me important in the concept of parallel polis, and I would like to support this project in one specific reason and try to find some kinds of partners of allies in the specific fight in the current culture. Okay. The concept of parallel polis is not new. 40 years ago was established the civic movement, which name was the Charta 77, Charta 77 in English. It's interesting, there is the snapshot of some people who signed this manifest, or some kinds of documents. If you look on this, you can see on the left up corner is Václav Havel, the son of one of the biggest Czech culture entrepreneur in the First Republic. There is also Jiří Dinsbír, one of the prominent communist journalists. There is also Ladislav Hejdánek. He was the evangelic theologue and philosopher. And there is also Václav Benda. He was Catholic philosopher. These completely different kinds of people go together and build something which names Charta and try to defend one specific group of the people, the Czech underground movement, the music underground movement. Because the initial trigger of the beginning of the parallel polis concept is in the music. How many people are in the room from other countries than from Czech Republic? Please, sir, up your hand. Great. You need to understand what means the mainstream culture in the 17th. One of the famous person in Czech Republic was a Karel Gott.
Páně a paní, vím, jak se ruší žál. Já ti hnu duší jen klejny karneval. Já kdysi panám, já ba i vdovám lhal. a teď v srdci chovám jen Lady
Okay, I think
Karneval.
that's okay. And it's not necessary to see the whole strange things together. And the Karel God was the prominent of the regime and their shape, what is a culture in Czech Republic mean. But in the middle of the 70s, there was some interesting movement connected with the underground music and represent, in this case, by the plastic people of the universe. This is just a short.
Plastic people is unbounded, and my heart goes out to them.
And this is also Czech Republic in the same time. But this kind of events was strictly prohibited and cancelled by the police forces. Many of these people was pressed by the power, and there started a huge court was this group. And that was the reason why Charta 77 was beginning. They find a nice, such kind of hack in the system. They press the regime that criticize the government for failing to implement human rights. They go to the city and tell, hey, Mr. President, you signed this a civic rights declaration, and you are not behaving in the line with this. This is injustice in the sense in your law. If you look on this from this perspective, they was able to use the system against the system. The first resolution of this movement was a huge anti-campaign and something which was called the anti-Charta. But after a few months, there was yet another kind of reaction. It was silence. The regime find a way how to deal with this problem. The regime continues in depressing these people in their jobs. They lost many jobs. They lost opportunities for public performance, etc., etc. But in the official media was silence. This interesting way, because if nobody caring about you and about your protest, probably you can nothing change. It's time without the internet. It's full depend on the foreign broadcasting like the Voice of America or Free Europe broadcasting, but that's all. And Charta 77 was immediately after 1 year in crisis, and they try to find a way how to survive in the communist regime, in the totalitarian regime. They try to find a way how to be attractive for the people and how to do something what is able unify together a power of completely different groups. If you go back to the photo, there was a communist, there was a post-communist, there was a Trotskyist, a Catholic intelligence, there was also the people who are in this moment of right, liberal, etc., etc. It's completely there was completely diversified. And the Mr. Benda, one of very interesting intellectual in the country, started with a concept of parallel polis. The main idea was we have to care about the polis. We have to. It's our moral obligation. It's our duty. There is no way how to go to inner ghetto. There is no way how to start with closed groups. We have to care about it. We have to build a parallel structure for the specific reason, because we have to substitute a missing or beneficial functions of the state. The origin of the parallel polis is not opt out the system, but start working on the parallel structure, build the structure, and in the future be ready to overtake country. Václav Benda defined the 7 basic areas of this effort. The first one was the constant monitoring and verification on civic rights and freedoms. What does it mean? In the communist regime was just a list with the activities which are legal, which was legal, and the rest was prohibited. That means the first strategy was try to find the borders of the system, occupy the zone, and try to defend. This is the main reason. This was the main area of this effort. Now we are in a little bit different situation because, I understand why the people don't believe in this system, but believe me that the previous system was terrible. But we have the similar situation in many areas. The second one was defend the underground culture. Why? Because the underground culture was one of the most free in the country. The aesthetics of underground culture, honestly, it's not my taste, but it's free. And the people, like the previous prominent communist journalists, start defend this kind of culture because this culture was free, regardless to taste, regardless to own aesthetic preferences. The second was the defend the alternative culture. There's also the third one was the start with parallel education and science. With parallel education and science. Why? The reason was that the Czech education and science in these times was strongly paralyzed by ideological point of view. By the way, it's interesting to see the papers about the computer science from this time. And one small note, and many of Czech dissidents was in 80s good programmers and employees of biggest Czech state companies as computer programmers. Don't ask me why, but there was a lot of people of them. This means the guys in the Charta 77 start with a parallel education system, with the workshops. They try to invite the many interesting scientists and philosophers from the West and build their own such kinds of university. After World War Revolution, these people immediately was able to overtake the universities, especially in the philosophy of arts, and continue in this work. Interesting part was that Václav Benda was focused on information system. Again, it's the time where the typewriter machines was on the top of technologies. But they need, and the Charta necessary need for their work, some distributing system. And it's interesting that Václav Benda wrote about we need to care about the frequency, we need to care about the language, we need to care about in the end, marketing and PR. That's not Benda words, but it's right. There was a strong information network for the Samizdat publishing, an unofficial magazine. The fifth was the interesting concept of the parallel economy. Why? The reason was that many dissidents was cut from the good paid jobs in the country because of the ideological reason. Yes, many of them has a special sources, for example, for Václav Havel, for the playwriting, for the West theatrical performance. But the main issue was that the people was not able run the standard trusted services market. And there they started thinking about the reciprocity and trust. That was the real money, trust for the people, in the people. In the sixth, creation of parallel political structures and promotion of their development. The alternative political structures must be incubated in parallel polis and develop into a form which can replace. This is interesting. Why? Because if you go back in your head, Charta 77 was something like mashup of completely different points of view, completely. And they try to build a structure which in their core incorporate the idea about the democratic discussions about the problem, build this kind of parallel structure, and be ready to replace the system, not leave the system, but replace. And the last point was, we need run the parallel foreign structures. We need start discuss with the Western countries as such kinds of representation of free Czechoslovakia. This is important because it's important from the resources, of course, because you need to find somebody who will be able to pay your polis, but it's also important for the sharing information from inside country. And the results of this was the famous breakfast when the François Mitterrand visited Czech Republic in the half of 80s. The lunch has this guy together with Mr. Husák, our president. But breakfast was together with Václav Havel. And this guy started like the official or alternative to the official representation of the state. Okay. The quick summary. In the origin was a parallel polis strategy, not only for the resistance, but also for the building full functional structures which can replace the state. And also it was some kinds of incubation of discussion between completely different ideological point of view. Okay, now we move to the escape from system, this topic of this conference. I'm so happy that Roman Tietz and the rest of the guy start with reborning of the parallel polis concept. But if you look on the topic of this conference, you can see something a little bit different than was the primary intention of parallel polis in the Benda times. This is the claims from the website, and there is a nice use state cheats to hack the tyrant. And much more better, you can see, use a cryptographic technology to regain privacy, achieve new freedom using globality and flexibility. By the way, this photo is from the Mondo 2000s. It's a more than 20-year-old, 26-year-old. You can see what was a picture of the cyberpunker and hacker in this time. There is some interesting points like a scanner, there was some kind of micro camera, there was something similar to the GPS system. If you look on this, now we have all this in one cell phone. But back to this point. Name of this conference is a hacker conference. Usually, if you try to find what is a definition of the hackers, probably you find the infinite lists of definition. There is something about the technical skills guy, somebody is speaking about the possibility to do something with the system, etc., etc. But I love 2 points from this. In the cyberpunk literature is a hacker somebody who is something like the digital cowboy. He is able to provide the shadow run. He is able to be free because played with the corporations and states. And this position is strong individual position. Or we can define the hackers as a people who are able use the system against the system. They are able to find the places in the design of the whole system and use this system against the primer sense, the primer goal. And these people are hackers. And the second one, these people usually long for autonomy. We saw that use the system against the system was primary strategy of the Charta 77, by the way. Okay. We have the Charta 77 with the parallel polis concept as a strategy how to build a better society, how to replace the state structure by the new state structure. This initiative is running by the moral obligation to police, and this is driven by non-ideological point of view in some cases. Against, we stay with the concept of hackers, and especially the topic of this conference was an opt-out system. That means I don't care about the police, I don't care about the local stuff. I care about myself, and I would like to leave this system. It's old-fashioned cyberpunk way. If you go back to the Gibson's novels like The Neuromancer, you can find this idea there also. It's mean nothing new just in the new gadgets and the new concepts, but it's just the revival. But I think that this is not real autonomy. This is not real antinomy between this concept. The first one, the mood of the hackers, is a little bit similar to the dissidents in the 70s. Think that personal autonomy is on the first place, and the will of the people is second one. I think that it could be a little bit strange, but I'll try to explain. If you would like to legitimate the modern state, you have 2 possibilities. One of them is the state. It's expression of the will of people. This is old school Republican point of view. And the will of the people is on the top. If people want to kill you, they can, because it's will of the people. You can see in the current situation, a huge populism wave in the world, that this is rising star. And I think that there is similarities between the dissidents, between the hackers, between some human rights initiative, between the environmentalists, etc., because they try to say, in the end, the liberal point of view, sorry guys, there is something what is impeachable, what is the core of the society, and that's not the will of the people, it's a human rights, like the private owning, like the freedom of speech, etc., etc. And this is the core of society, and we long for autonomy, private autonomy. And somebody is able to do it with their computer, but there is many people who are autonomous in their gardens, in their villages, etc. These people just to try to say, please, no will of the people on the first place. Okay, that's the first point. I think the problem in this situation is that people like you, and partially like me, are not connected with the local movement. If you are not from the specific regimes, a totalitarian regime, we enjoy the stuff like the Revolut card, Uber, Airbnb, and we spend a lot of time out of country. We don't care about the local place because we are usually use the freedom of movement. But if you look on the data, probably this kind of people is just a 5% from this country. The rest of the people maybe once time in a year move from their city to other city or other country. These people has no deep technological knowledge. They have usually a bad education and usually then just the care about the next day. This means these people are running the populism wave in the country because they believe that there is no reason why prefer the human rights. There is just the question about the redistribution of money, and they believe that in some kinds is a dictatorship's better way than democracy. Okay. You can see this truck just a few meters out of this room. I think that the truck, parallel Polis truck, it's a perfect idea. But if you stay there and try to understand what is a content of the speeches to the people, there is, okay, we are ready to run through the country and promote the parallel Polis over and over. And what is the main topics? The privacy. The second one is a freedom, is an escape from the state. Hey, guys, nobody in this country except you and me care about the privacy. There's no real problem of these people. They have completely different problems. And this is so abstract. That's mean, I think that's a great idea to try to disseminate the parallel Polis to the other cities, but not in this way. The final part. I think that there is some way how to try combine together the idea of parallel Polis from the Benda time and from the time of this Congress. And sorry for the marketing concept of distributed republic. Maybe you know that distributed republic is a term coined by the Neil Stephenson novels The Snow Crash and Diamond Age. And there is no deep theory of what is distributed republic is. Yet there is some book about the police state, etc., etc. But I love this term. Maybe it's much better to thinking about this idea similarly to the leaks in the Greek antiquity, the Greek city-state federations. It's mean you can see over the whole old Greek a network of the policies which are based in local condition. Some of them are on the top of technologies, some of them are just the marketplaces, some of these cities is driven by the dumb people, but they still are self-governant. And these policies are in one federation which care about the rest of the stuff. Like okay, it seems that Persians are going here, it's time to fight. Hey, call the stupid guys from the Sparta, we need them. This is the idea. Try to distribute a concept of parallel policies, not in the technological way, but in the ethos, in the moral scope, the same like in the Charta 77, because people understand that something is wrong, but what is wrong, it's different if you are in the village, and it's different in the big city. That's mean it's necessary to be ready, start the huge discussion. And yeah, I know, if you go out, you can see many strange people like the socialist, environmentalist. Maybe there is some liberals. These people have completely different type of world. You know, in Prague we have the specific experience with a project which name was Klinika, like the upside down project to parallel Polis. But all these people share the same idea. The idea is we prefer our autonomy, we prefer the rights. We think that sovereignty of the people is the second one, not the first one. By the way, when I try to find some illustration to this, this is the education material for the high school. It's a simulation how to build the real Greek city. And you need to find a way how to manage the resources. And this is also an interesting way how to share with the people our ideas. I believe that the best regulation is self-regulation. And the best governance is the self-governance. But I think that the idea of distributed republic offered to us the interesting opportunities. Like, okay, probably we are not able to run the state like the Liberland on the 100 meter. But we are able to offer to the people something like the dual citizenship as a membership in this federation. This means if I come to the different city, I know that this is my friend Polis. This is the people who are the same like-minded like me. I can find their help if something is wrong, etc., etc. We are able slowly start with the concept of the parallel state outside of geographic boundaries. And we are able to change the definition of the state from a form of organized violation to something like express of my identity, of my values. We need to understand the people with the same values on the top could be radically different in the specific area. Probably you are so smart people, and the reason is that you are here and try to understand something new. It's a problem that smart people like you usually are able to find the similarities and differences more deeply than other people. That's fine, but in the end, they usually overvaluate these differences. From the people from the street who try to push some authoritarian regimes, my position, your position is the same. It's just the small differences between these people. And I think that if we are able to run something like a network or polis, distributed republic, the federation of the cities, we are able to completely change the map. For example, there still is the same problem, like the testing the limits of freedom. We need to again test what is possible. For example, in this moment, we spend a lot of time of social networks like the Facebook or Twitter. But honestly, do you understand what is legal on the Facebook? Which kind of content will be destroyed immediately by the Facebook? No. But the Facebook is, in this moment, one of the crucial part of public sphere. Nobody cares, nobody press the Facebook. Just the Mark Zuckerberg sit and say, hey, tell me what I have to do, I do it. That's a bullshit. And also, the technological underground is on the first place. I think that the hackers, in this sense, are something like the underground in the 70s. The most free and also most freaks in the project, and it's necessary open much more this community to other people and bring to them the possibilities which we know. There is a huge gap between our knowledge and the everyday life of the people. So far, there's also education and science against a similar situation like the 70s. But the problem is that there is a huge gap between the periphery and the centers. If you are born in Prague, you have probably a good chance receive the perfect education. If you are born, sorry for the example from Czech Republic, in Karlovy Vary or Ústí nad Labem, you will be punished for the place where you was born. And we have technological way how to improve it. And nobody cares about these people. And these people then go and vote for the Mr. Okamura, etc. There's also interesting in area connected with local currency. We still discuss about the bitcoins. But hey, honestly, if you are work in a factory, really would like to receive your salary in bitcoins? The price of coffee change in the 10th minute if you go there and back. It's nonsense. It's interesting concept. It is fine. I love the Bitcoin concept, but for the usual people it's completely senseless. Sorry. But there is something interesting. The concept of local currencies. That means currencies powered by the communities, by the local cities. If we will be able to explain to the people why it's a good way, start with the local currencies, they probably understand in the future on the concept of bitcoins, etc. But we need to start with discussion, hey, what is your needs? Usually we start with question, hey, we have a problem and solution, it's your problem too? No. And there is a lot of other possibilities, and I'm not able to see what everything is possible. It means there's something new coming up. Okay, the 40 minutes is out. I thank you for your attention, and I hope so that there is something interesting for you. Maybe the video of Karel Gott and Plastic People of the Universe. And now it's time for the Q and answer.
Yeah. So thank you, Josef. Thank you for your talk. I definitely have to say that I think we need to have this kind of talks more often in Polis, because it's very important, I think, to negotiate the meaning of the Polis and the purpose. So, audience, now it's your turn to help us to define the Polis. So maybe you can start with a question.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. It was interesting. You mentioned that it's very difficult for regular, like normal people to grasp the ideas of privacy and everything. So what do you suggest to make it less like crazy for them? How to bridge the gap between like people like us and normal people, if you say so?
Yeah, I understand you. Give me a second. It's hard to say. Yeah, I think that on the first place is education in the end. Yeah, we don't promoting the idea of privacy on public space because usually we are experts. But many people think that the right for privacy is not real right. It's something new. But if you're thinking about your right for private correspondence, it's old-fashioned rights. It's 300 old, yeah? And I think that we need to much more say, okay, if somebody break your private communication, it's the same like the start read your letters to the publicly. We need to find a much more a metaphor cases which are understandable. And the second one, I think that people usually think that their opinion are not important for their life. They think that, okay, what is my opinion? Who cares? And we need to encourage the people to understand that their opinion, it's important. It's a long term. In short term, I think that the way could be was a defending of broken this law publicly. That means if we see some case where this privacy is broken, we need to go there and tell, hey, this is the problem because. My job in this moment is to defend the journalist. And in this case, it's clear because without the right for the privacy, you are not able to run the good journalist work with the sources. And sometimes somebody kill. That means try to find in the local area the cases. I know that's not easy, but still there are. Good example, and I think that people care about it, is the Facebook privacy cases. Because everybody has the account there. And if you go, okay, really, are you happy with that Facebook knows that you fuck this girl? Sorry for this. The Facebook know much more than your wife. And I think that this could be interesting way.
I'd like just to add a thought on what your question was about. So I think it's about listening to them and what are the existential threats they are facing in their daily life. And if we start asking them what are their fears and start to build our stories, the way we explain things around that, I think that would be a much better approach than coming with our, let's say, intellectual perspective and force it and push it into their
definitely.
sphere.
Yeah, definitely. That's my point. But it's necessary to be said that usually people, if you ask what is your problem, usually don't tell me what is your real problem. It is necessary to combine this with much more research. Yeah. For example, and typically in Czech Republic was a huge wave, the anti-immigration wave. Probably nobody has a problem with the migrants. There is something deeply what we need to find and solve. But yeah, we need to start listening to people and then offer the solution. Because we have, for many cases, a technological solution, but usually this is not a problem for the people.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, maybe we have still a few minutes. You can do questions, but you can just maybe share your opinion with us also.
Hi, I really enjoyed your presentation, particularly because you were comparing what's happening today with what was happening in the Czech Republic in the past. I also agree with your point of view. I'm not an hacker myself. I'm new to this world. And it seems I have had the impression that what we are talking about here is really disconnected from what's happening outside. Just to give you an example, I have a couple of friends in the Czech Republic who are around 40, and they told to me, Angelo, life under communism and life under wild capitalism apparently are the same. There is the same lack of freedom of expression, and at least during communism, I was entitled to have a house. So to come back to the issue of what are the real problems of people, I think about costing of houses, I think about absolute lack of social security nowadays, and I think that crypto people can play a role in that, in imagining an alternative model of social security based on a different idea of money and I see an opportunity for dialogue. But this is not going to happen as long as you stay close in your closed environment, talking only to people who belong to your own environment.
I agree with and many people in this country agree with the statement that the communism and capitalism is the same in the end. Yeah. I think that this is just the cognitive dissonance, not the real opinion. But where I see the possibilities is the start caring about the local problem. Yeah, I know that the prices of houses is so high, but there is so many problem in your city which is not connected with this. For example, the environment. Yeah, for example, the culture in the streets. For example, drugs in the streets. This is the local problem. If the people try to solve this local problem, they maybe will be able again find the belief that they could something change if you try it. We lost this belief. We don't believe that we are able to change something in the system. And this is the reason why we try to find a way how to opt out this system. If you look, for example, on the Slovakia in this moment, after there was 1 year ago, there was killed the journalist whose name was Kuciak. The situation in the Slovakia, it's a capture state. There's no difference between the state and organized crime, if you look at this. But after huge protests in the streets, after this horrible murder, people start again believe that they could something change and start with a self-organization. The current president of the Slovakia was the NGO activist who tried to solve the problem with the garbage in the small Slovak city. And she was able to do it. Yeah, that means we need to start in the small things, which is different in the different countries and the different cities. It's understandable what I mean? What is the right way?
Okay, we are running out of time, so I think this was the last note from Josef, and I think it was just very right on the point that we think not to go to global, but also look at local thing and think more about the local issues. But I would like to add one point. Thank you for opening questions which we need to be answered. Like, I hope that you also are here because you think of opting out. What does it mean? How it refers to you? You know, what do we need to opt out from? And we know that right now is happening a panel discussion when people from Polis and crypto communities are discussing what it means to be this these specific communities. And even in Polis Prague, I can see already the difference, like that opting out from the state is very much statement of Palolupták and Romanticis, because you were referring to them in the beginning. It's much more talking about like creating a parallel structure it's not cooperating, it's somehow living next to it and creating this newness, yeah. But what I would like to end in the end is that what I found out from these like how do people teach about what is freedom, why you need to care about the privacy. What helps very well is materiality. You need to find the way how to materialize the thing, you know, how to make it haptic, I would say. Yeah? If we talk about like all the code, we talk about the design, you know, UX and UI. So in this case, with these big topics, we also need to find this materia where we can express it, and that's very much about design. So when you look at the black building, you will you can start to think about how design and materiality can help you to spread these ideas. So
definitely.
Thank you, Josef.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.